Okay, so today we are actually dealing with the remaining portions. Yesterday we solved questions from the topics up to Indian environmental organizations. Okay, that is module 7. From module 8, that is international environmental organizations. In module 9, we are having protected areas. Module 10, climate change. 11, 12 is like it can be pollution and EIA. So basically it is a mains perspective module. So I have not added many questions from that particular module, that two modules, because it is from mains perspective. Here also we are discussing from these three modules. Okay, that is international environmental organization, protected areas, and climate change mainly. Why? Because the other two is mains. Okay, you can deeply watch the classes. Have you finished your syllabus? Finished? So, yes, so we can start off with International Environmental Organization. So, what all things I have told with regard to Indian Environmental Organization, all these things applicable here also. Like whether the organization is governmental, okay, whether it is an intergovernmental organization or whether it is a non-governmental organization, that part you have to check. Second is, yes, mandatives, the objectives, the aims, for what purpose it is working, that particular international organization is working, that you have to take note of. Next is outcomes. Okay, outcomes of important conferences and conventions. When we deal with, we are having, like, we'll start off with the 1972 Stockholm Conference. It has got certain outcomes. UNEP was an outcome of that particular conference. So there are certain outcomes attached with each and every conferences or conventions, international conventions. That all things you have to note. Yes, parent organizations. Certain organizations will be having the parent organization or some precursors will be there. So you should know which all are the parent organization of that particular international organization. Features, yes, features in the sense there will be certain initiatives or programs carried out by certain international environmental organization. Can you name some examples? For example, you can say like important bird and biodiversity area. By whom? Yes. So there are certain initiatives or biodiversity hotspot by Conservation International. Yes. So there are certain programs or initiatives carried out by each and every international environmental organization. So you should be aware of such initiatives or programs as well. Right. Next, important designations. Like from the World Heritage Convention of 1972, we have got the World Heritage Sites. Then Ramsar Sites from Ramsar Convention. Monterey Record, in association with Ramsar Site, we are having Monterey Record as well. Then yes, important bird and biodiversity area, biodiversity hotspots. These are certain designations awarded or given by these international organizations. So you should be aware of such important designations as well. Right. Coming on to, yes, the member state. Another thing that you have to notice, whether important countries, okay, whether they are member or whether they are party to the convention or not, that all things you have to keep in mind, in particular with the context of India. Right. That is with regard to International Environmental Organization. Coming to our next module, which is protected areas. It's a very vast module and it's a module where you need to keep remembering the facts. Okay. Yes. And this is the area also where you need to keep an eye with regard to updation of things. Okay. Regularly these protected areas will come in news, and those which repeatedly come in news is very, very important with regard to your preparation. So in protected areas, we actually in our class we started off with Biosphere Reserves. Okay, in Biosphere Reserves, yes, Biosphere Reserves are being designated under, yes, under which program? Yes, Man and Biosphere program of UNESCO. So under Biosphere Reserve, you need to study about the structure of Biosphere Reserve. Okay, it's zonation. It is being zoned into 3 different zones. Like, what are they? Core zone, yes, core, buffer, transition. So that zonation you need to keep in mind. Yes, in our country, how many biosphere reserves we are having? 18 biosphere reserves, out of which we are having like important biosphere reserves are included in the World Network of Biosphere Reserve by UNESCO. Okay, so under this 18 biosphere from India, we have 12 biosphere reserves included in World Network of Biosphere Reserve. Which was the latest edition? The 12th one? Yes, Panna. Panna was the latest edition. Yes, so with regard to Biosphere Reserve, another thing, location states. Not only with regard to Biosphere Reserve, all protected areas, the primary thing that you need to know is where it is situated, which state, the location, right? Then, yes, under Biosphere Reserve itself, there will be certain protected areas, right? That Biosphere Reserve will be having certain national parks, wildlife sanctuaries or tiger reserves situated within it. So, you should know which all are the protected areas situated within the Biosphere Reserve. Again, the rivers, the common things that you need to know. The river or on the banks of which river this particular Biosphere Reserve is located, or the hill ranges coming under that particular Biosphere Reserve. Then yes, important species, right? Yes, so this is like the classification with regard to Biosphere Reserve. In Western Ghats we are having, yes, Nilgiris, Agastyamalai. Eastern Ghats we are having Sheshajalam from Andhra. Then eastern coast, the eastern coast, yes, Gulf of Mannar. As an island we are having Great Nicobar. Eastern Himalayas, yes, Dihang Dibang, Dibru Saikova, Manas, Noktrek as well as Kanchenjunga. Okay. Western Himalayas, from Uttarakhand we are having Nanda Devi and Himachal Pradesh. Yes, the cold desert. Central and Peninsular India, the Rann of Kutch from Gujarat, Pachmari from Madhya Pradesh, yes, Achnagmar Amarkandak from Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, Panna, again Madhya Pradesh, Simlipal, Odisha, right? And in the Gangetic Delta, yes, the very famous Sundarbans from West Bengal. So in this way, you can actually classify it and study for easy remembering. Okay, so these are the 18 biosphere reserves from India. Is moving on to national parks. National parks designated under which law? Which act? Yes, Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. And it is having, when we compare it with wildlife sanctuaries, national parks is having a greater degree of protection. And here the human activities, they are prohibited. We know human activities are not allowed under exceptional circumstances in national parks. And national parks are IUCN category. IUCN category. National parks, IUCN category 2. Wildlife sanctuaries, IUCN category 4. Okay. National parks are having a greater degree of protection. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, national parks, they are not primarily focusing upon the conservation of certain species. Okay, whereas when we move on to wildlife sanctuaries, we can see that wildlife sanctuaries can be established for the conservation of, particularly for the conservation of certain species. That's why we are having like bird sanctuaries are there, dolphin sanctuaries are there, right? So, in wildlife sanctuaries, they can be set up in particular for the conservation of certain species. Yes, again then you have to keep in mind national parks, the location, the states where they are situated, the important species, river, hills, all these things you have to keep in mind. Coming to wildlife sanctuaries, again both wildlife sanctuaries, national parks under the ambit of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, and it is IUCN category 4. Wildlife sanctuaries, IUCN category 4. And here in wildlife sanctuaries, limited human interference is allowed. That is, partially we can say human activities are partially allowed in wildlife sanctuaries. And it can be focused on particular species conservation. And you have to see wildlife sanctuaries, we are having more number of wildlife sanctuaries, right? More than 550 of wildlife sanctuaries are there in India. So, it is very, very difficult for us to remember all those things. Okay. But keep in mind, national parks, you need to know the respective national parks and states. But with regard to wildlife sanctuary, yes, it is difficult, but the important ones and those in news, you need to know about those wildlife sanctuaries, right? You can get the map and all those details from NVIS site. Okay, you can download the map and all those things from NVIS site.